Okay. Welcome back to the Go Follow Yeshua podcast, also known as the Acts 15 podcast. And just for those who might be joining us, if this is your first video and you haven't seen the previous ones, there's not really a need to go see the previous ones, except maybe the introduction video that kind of sets the stage for the rest of what we're doing. But the idea is to teach God's people, the saints, the Latter-day Saints, about the Torah. The Torah is the five books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And how it is that these books they are basically the oldest scriptures that we have. They're at the beginning of the book, so to speak, right? And how these form a foundation for the rest of our faith. And they are really, truly vital. An understanding of the Torah is vital to understanding the rest of the canon. And so we are going through the Torah or the five books of Moses, portion by portion. This is a kind of an ancient reading schedule that ancient Israelites would go through. And this is mentioned in Acts chapter 15, where the new converts to the church were given a list of four kind of like a minimum set of commandments for them to follow, which were found in Leviticus 17 and 18. And then the apostles said, and the new converts will learn the rest by attending synagogue where Moses is read every week. And Moses being read every week, those are the portions of the Torah. So we're going through those, and that's what we're doing. And this week, we are going to cover the Torah portion called Toldot. But before we get there, did you want to add anything?
Good so far.
Good so far? Okay.
Hmm.
Just break right in if you got anything to say.
Cool.
Um, by the way, again, if this is your initial video, my name is Joshua Erickson. I'm secretary of the Zarahemla Foundation, and I'll let you.
I'm Elior Walker, and I host the Doctrine of Christ and Hebraic Restoration YouTube channel.
Okay, so the Torah portion, as I said, is Toldot. Toldot is the Hebrew word for generations. Usually these Torah portions, the names of the portions actually come from the first the first significant word or words in the portion. So this Torah portion, Toldot, starts off in Genesis chapter 25, verse 19, which begins, "These are the generations of Isaac." So, so that word generations there is Toldot, and it's kind of the first significant word. So, thus the naming of this portion. So, we're going to go from Genesis 25, verse 19 to Genesis 28, verse 9 in this Torah portion. So, it begins the generations of Isaac, and it says Abraham's. So, these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac. So it's interesting. It like says the same thing. I mean, it's kind of there's a miniature little chiasm there. Um, says Isaac, Abraham's son, and then Abraham begat Isaac.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's interesting little uh, note there. And the ancient rabbi Rashi, medieval um, rabbi Rashi, he's one of the most famous kind of Jewish commentators on the Torah. Um, he teaches that this was put in there um, so that um, anyone who might doubt the the parentage, the father, the who sired Isaac would have this. And the reason why there might be some question is because Sarah, if you remember from one of our previous portions, Sarah was actually taken by the king of the Philistines, Abimelech, and taken, and he was planning on taking her as a wife or concubine. But eventually, God showed him in a dream that she belonged to Abraham as like Abraham's wife, um, and Abimelech was a righteous man and did not have any desires to sin, and so returned Sarah to her husband Abraham, and then sent Abraham away with gifts and so on. But then Sarah conceives shortly after that and gives birth to Isaac. And so if you're watching this on the outside, it might be like, oh, like Abraham and Sarah have been married for decades and there's been no children. And then Sarah gets taken to like join Abimelech's family, and he's a king, so it's probably like Abimelech's harem or whatever.
Yeah.
And then comes out and she's like pregnant shortly after that. Well, maybe there's, something wrong with Abraham as far as his fertility. But this this Rashi, according to Rashi, this little detail was put in there just to make sure that thoughts like that are not entertained.
Mm.
Now, it even though the text actually says, though, Abimelech didn't touch her at all, but still there could be these like lingering doubts or. Now, another thing, and this is not in the text, but this is Jewish tradition, Jewish legend, and Rashi talks about this as well, that um, that God actually provided a an evidence of this to everyone, so that everyone would know. When Isaac was born, he looked like Abraham, like the spitting image, like uh, looked like Abraham, but just like a younger version. And there's so that it was like obvious, right, to everyone that Abraham was definitely the father. And but it goes actually deeper than this too. It wasn't He was more than just like the physical copy. He was also like the spiritual copy of Abraham. And as we will see here, like Isaac does like inherit the blessings of Abraham and his action. He is Abraham's son, like in every way. Um, just wanted to mention too, like this idea of having a son that is like the spitting image of the father is um, in Jewish writings outside of the Bible, but there's actually a similar thing in LDS writings outside of the Bible. So in Genesis chapter 5, um, verse 3, just turn back to that, it says, and Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image and called his name Seth. So, which is kind of an interesting commentary on what it means to be created after someone's image. And earlier in Genesis, when Adam is created, it says that he was created in the image of God. So, if you want to know what that means, well, this verse actually makes it quite clear that it's like a physical likeness. So we have this physical likeness of God, just like Seth did to Adam. Now, how close were those? Was Seth to Adam? Well, in Doctrine and Covenants 107, it actually says 107 verse 43. He, Seth, was a perfect man, and his likeness was the express likeness of his father, insomuch that he seemed to be like unto his father in all things, and could be distinguished from him only by his age.
Wow.
Uh,
Right in DNC.
Yeah. So this is something that we have in our own tradition as well. Okay. So moving on. Um, the next verse here says Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, and we don't actually get Rebekah's age. There are traditions about that, but we don't know. So um, I will say the book of Jasher has her quite young, like 14 years old or so, when she marries Isaac, and this, of course, again, this is very young and also a big age gap, right? And something that in our modern culture we would definitely be uncomfortable with, but we have to be careful about presentism, right? Which is like judging past people according to the cultural norms that we espouse right now, right?
Yeah, the marriage of uh, I guess young teenage women, but who have hit puberty was a common thing in the ancient Near East, even in Roman in Jesus times,
Yeah,
in his day.
yeah, and a lot of that, a lot of that had to do with, well, I mean, there's a lot of that had to do with shorter lifespans.
Mhm.
Although, in this patriarchal kind of age, that wasn't they were living to, more than 100 years generally, so that wasn't probably the issue so much. Of course, later on, like in Jesus's day, the lifespan was probably quite a bit shorter, 50 years, 40 years maybe. So you want to start a family as soon as possible. The other thing is, our modern society like infantilizes children. Um, and I read about just just a few generations ago, Little House on the Prairie kind of stuff, where we just have 13-year-old boys just building log cabins, by themselves or whatever, and plowing up 40 acres, and doing like amazing things that would be difficult for adult men nowadays, right?
And impossible for 13-year-old boys
And
nowadays.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have to pry them away from the video games, like which would just like create a black hole or something.
Yeah, for all our comforts, in some ways we live in a woeful condition
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, we are weaker than our ancestors
Yeah.
for sure. So now it's interesting. So it says that they were married, and then immediately it says Isaac entreated Yehovah for his wife because she was barren. So now we don't know how long they experienced barrenness, and we also don't know how long, like when Isaac. Well, we do know how long, because it says Isaac was 40 years old when he took her to wife, and then later on, just a few verses down, it says that he was 60 years old when she gave birth.
20 years.
So yeah, 2 decades, 20 years, which is a long time. It's a lot of patience to wait, which is similar to like the wait that Sarah had to endure, right,
Hmm.
for Isaac himself. So, um, but I think it is beautiful that he prays for his wife. So, I know couples who struggle with infertility, and it's kind of a heartbreaking thing. Like it's a very traumatic, like spiritually traumatic, emotionally traumatic to want a child, which is a rare thing, rarer these days than it's ever been, and not be able to have a child. That's that takes a lot out of a person. And so anyway, I think there's a lot of patience and faith going on here with both Isaac and Rebecca, that they trusted in God, and it took 20 years before their desires were fulfilled. So okay, but his prayer was effectual, as it says. It says the Lord was entreated um, by him, and that she conceived. And in verse 22, starting there, it says the children struggled together within her. And so, of course, I've never experienced pregnancy because, men don't get pregnant, despite what Google might say. But, I can only imagine kind of the feeling that it would be, that it is, right, to have a child moving around inside your womb, and then to have two healthy boys moving around in there, kicking and stuff. I don't know that they were literally like fighting each other in the womb. I don't know that they were even aware of each other. Maybe they were, I don't know, but it probably felt like that to Rebecca, right? Like, man, they were like wrestling in there or something. And so she asked God about it, and God uses this to teach her about the destiny of these children, right? Um, so it says she went to inquire of the Lord, inquire of Jehovah. And Jehovah said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And bowels, by the way, in our modern terminology, bowels is like your intestines, right?
Hmm.
But in biblical speak, bowels is just like an idiom for your guts,
Hmm.
right? Your inner parts. Okay. So two people shall, two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So
Hmm.
she knows, like she has a revelation that the younger one is going to be chosen, um, and going to be the ruler over the older. So when has that happened? Can you think of any other times when the younger?
It happens later. Oh, it happens many, actually, a ton of times. It happens, yeah,
It's interesting. It happens. It actually happens like almost exclusively.
almost every time.
Yeah.
Even in strictly Latter-day Saint scripture.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like Laman and Lemuel are complaining that Nephi is always trying to rule over them or whatever,
Hmm.
and God says, "Yeah, I chose him to be ruler over you."
Hmm.
Right. Even though he is the younger brother. So, um, no difference here. Um, I do want to mention uh, one kind of New Testament commentary on this that is used sometimes by um, Calvinist Christians, and that is in Romans chapter 9. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but in Romans chapter 9, there's an interesting passage. I'm going to start at 10. When Rebekah also had conceived, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, for the purpose of God according to election, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. Okay, so now this verse has been used to justify um, like a Calvinist view of salvation, or in theological terms, soteriology. Soteriology.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, the Calvinist view is of um, unconditional election. Like God has chosen certain peoples people to be saved, and other people he has chosen to be damned, and like created them for that purpose, right? Um, and why has God like created some people to be damned? The answer is for his glory, like to show his glory, to show that he actually controls completely the destinies of men, and that he is sovereign. We do not have our own wills, but everything that we do is according to God's like decree for us. And if you're a Latter-day Saint and you hear, and this is like revolting, a revolting idea. I mean, it is, in my opinion. It denies the doctrine of agency, which is, we believe, of course, central to God's plan. And so, but still, it does say why. It does say that Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated, and it mentions in the verse, the verse, two verses before that, like saying, like before they were born, before they had even done any good or evil, God had elected Jacob and Esau for elected them in some way, or predestined them in some way, and that Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh,
Like, how would you respond to Calvinist who like shows you, look, Jacob and Esau were loved and hated by God before they were even born?
they're, Hebrew or scriptural expressions not meant to be taken literally.
Oftentimes, right?
Yeah.
I think we miss a lot when we don't understand the cultural context, which
Hmm.
includes like idiomatic expressions.
Exactly.
Like I know anyone learning a foreign language is going to struggle with idioms
Hmm.
and translating those. For our viewers who may not know, can you give us like a some examples maybe of idiomatic expressions like in English?
Oh, in English, earlier today we were talking about this, and you mentioned it's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be taken literally. It's communicating something about the rain.
Yeah.
It's raining a
It's
lot.
raining very hard, right?
Yes.
It's not actually household pets falling from the sky. But
Hmm.
to someone who is learning English for the first time, maybe they have not learned this phrase, and then
Hmm.
they're out in public and someone says it's raining cats and dogs, he'll just be like, what? Like, I don't know
Hmm.
if I heard that right or what am I missing? This it sounds totally bizarre. Is this person crazy? Right?
Hmm.
When really it's just an idiomatic expression. So it's a way of speaking that does not convey the literal meaning, but there's like some we say an idiomatic meaning, a separate meaning that this is describing,
It's a metaphorical meaning.
a metaphorical meaning. Yeah.
Like for instance, in Hebrew, the word for curse, like when God curses the ground for Adam's sake, what the word for curse, the word translated as curse means to be spat upon. So
Hmm.
God spat upon the ground for Adam's sake.
Interesting.
Anytime that word is used in Hebrew, it's literally translated as spat upon, but often it would be translated as cursed, right? Just to skip the idiom, just to get to the heart of the
Yeah.
meaning.
What does it mean?
What does it mean to be spat upon? Cursed in English, which
Right.
is English is abstract,
Hmm.
whereas Hebrew is concrete. So in the Hebrew, you have physical imagery as the definition, you know.
Okay.
So
Interesting. So you can be cursed without being literally spat upon.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this idiom, and there's um, actually, if you search online, there's a really interesting reference. There is like a dictionary of idioms. You
Very
can just
cool.
find it's a PDF. It's fascinating read. And they'll show these idioms, and a lot of times they'll have like whether or not these idioms actually. 'Cause there are some idioms that are like cross-cultural,
Mm,
but some of them are not. They're like,
most aren't, right?
I couldn't tell you.
Hmm.
Probably most are not because they're going to be specific to the culture and the language.
Exactly.
So, okay. Uh, so, you know, there is, I'm going to turn here. God says he hates Esau. I'm actually going to turn to Luke chapter 14, verse 26. Should have a bookmark in here. Um, and Jesus says something that has, kind of, I think similarly made people like scratch their heads sometimes. Like I have talked to people who have been confused about this. 14:26. Yes. Okay. If this is Jesus speaking, of course, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life, he cannot be my disciple.
Hmm.
So Jesus says, if you don't hate your family, then you can't follow me. And, you know, on the on its face, this sounds kind of horrific.
Not like a fun God
Yeah.
to worship.
Like didn't Jesus isn't Jesus all about like love? I mean
Hmm.
here he's like commanding people to hate their family. This is like very culty.
Hmm.
So how do we understand this? Well, there's a couple ways, and it is definitely an idiom because Jesus is not telling people to break the fifth commandment, which is honor your father and mother
Or love your fellow man.
or love your fellow man. Yeah,
The
yeah.
second commandment.
Yeah, Jesus says the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself, and that includes your family and it includes everyone, right?
So he's not saying don't break the second greatest commandment or the fifth commandment in the Ten Commandments, you know?
Right. We cannot appropriately interpret it that way. We have to understand it in a way that actually harmonizes
Mm.
with the rest of Scripture. And so either we believe that Jesus is like doing away with these other commandments and like doing something new, Or we realize, no, he's not doing away with those. Even though on the surface reading it seems to say that, or it could be understood to say that, then really we have to understand that he's actually saying something else that can be harmonized. And so, anyway, one way to harmonize this, of course, is that this hatred is not literal despising, right? He's not saying to, have have ill feelings towards your father and mother and wife and children, but that you should like love them less than you love me. Because what you might say, what he's actually saying is he's actually emphasizing the first commandment, which is you shall have no other gods before me. In other words, you choose me first, and then everyone else is, a step down from me.
Hmm.
And that's otherwise we have idols, right? The idols is the second commandment, but it's related to that first commandment, right?
Hmm.
Another way to realize this is that the these words love and hate actually have idiomatic meanings, and it's related to what I just said. And the idiomatic meaning is chosen and not chosen. So when God says, and by the way, Paul in Romans 9, where he says, Jacob I have loved and Esau I have hated, he's actually quoting Malachi.
Mm.
So Paul is quoting Malachi. Okay. Um, but those terms mean Jacob have I chosen and Esau I have not chosen. Or he's like chosen after. Okay, like there's an order to it. And so then the last question is because the verses in Romans talk about election. And so the question is election to what? And the Calvinist Christians will say that election is referring to salvation. But the Latter-day Saint view would be that election is to a purpose. In other words, you're elected or predestined to fulfill a mission. Not that you are like unconditionally guaranteed to be damned or to be saved or exalted, but that God had a mission for you before, and this doesn't have anything to do with your agency. Like it doesn't abrogate your agency in any way, right? Um, any thoughts on that?
There is what's happening here in the scripture is what's called the logical problem of composition. And so what they confuse a few things. Christians commonly confuse these passages in the New Testament to mean that the believers are predestined to be saved. Whereas it's in reality, it's all those who have chosen to be Christian and live their faith fully are predestined to be saved just because that's where they're headed anyway. So it's like this error of composition going on. It's a misunderstanding of what it's saying.
Yeah,
Fun fact.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. It reminds me of I think it's Doctrine and Covenants 4. Let me just go there. Um, 4 verse 3. Therefore, if you have desires to serve God, you are called to the work.
Hmm. That's
Right.
right.
Okay. Like that's kind of the order. And um and of course we believe that our existence did not begin with our conception or birth in mortality.
Right.
Right? So our ability to choose actually extends back into our premortal to the premortal realm as well. And we chose there as what just like we choose here. Um, and in all of the ramifications of that entails, right?
To be chosen or elect is a choice, ultimately, to conduct ourselves in such a way that we are chosen and elected. And it reminds me of Abraham 3,
Go on.
where Abraham is told that in the pre-existence he was a noble and great one. He has been chosen
Right.
and elected.
Not to be exalted.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not what's communicated in Abraham 3, right? He's chosen to uh yeah, be a leader.
Chosen to be a leader, and if he like the righteous fulfilling of that election will lead to exaltation.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So I just wanted to mention that because that is Romans chapter 9 is and those verses and the surrounding verses too. So you can go check it out.
Well, and one more thing about that logical problem
Of composition.
of composition, that logical error of composition is to distill it down. Basically, Christians will interpret that being as all Christians will be saved,
Yeah.
but the right way to view it is among the saved will be true Christians. It's they're inverting that's what the logical error of composition does. It sort of inverts the truth.
Okay, interesting.
So,
Okay. So back to Genesis 25. Um, we have this an account of their birth. It says when her days were fulfilled, days to be delivered were fulfilled. Um, there were twins, just like her revelation had said. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And Esau probably means hairy or rough because he was like a red, hairy, like red hair, red-haired baby and hairy all over, like arms and back and whatever, like a little,
like an ape.
yeah, little orangutan
Hmm.
or something, I guess. I don't know. And then Jacob was so that was kind of unusual, and they like name Esau kind of after his birth, like they hadn't picked out names, which is kind of interesting. It's like let's wait and see what if anything weird happens when they're born, and then we'll name him that, right?
Mm,
So and then Jacob came out, and it says that his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name therefore was called Jacob. And Jacob basically means heel, but but it's just kind of like in English, heel has a literal meaning, like it's the back of the bottom of your foot or whatever. But heel also means the last of something, like the heel of a loaf of bread. It's like the last slice or whatever. Um, and so Jacob being named heel could mean that he was the second one born. He was the last of the two. But there's another meaning, idiomatic meaning of someone who like puts his foot down and puts his foot down in a way that like trips and like pushes someone else aside. And so commonly, if you look up the meaning of the word Jacob, it'll be supplanter. So supplanter is someone who takes another person's spot, like kind of deceptively or something like that. So you could kind of understand Jacob's name in either of those ways. And then they're kind of both true, as like you'll see, right? Okay, so the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. So from 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 their birth, they just kind of take these divergent paths from one another. And Esau is a hunter, like he's very kind of manly, I guess you could say, right? And he's out doing tough guy things and out on his hunting trips. And Jacob stays at home. Like we learn that Jacob, probably like tends his fields and flocks.
he's pastoral,
Yeah,
which is seen as in Hebraic thought, that's seen as the ideal life.
yeah, right. That's right. The it is interesting that in the Torah anyway, there's only two hunters, and we're actually going to talk about both of them. There's only two hunters mentioned, and that is Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter, and then Esau. And the hunters are like wicked guys. They're not the valiant, not the righteous. But then we have the shepherds who are. So David was a shepherd, and Moses was a shepherd, and Abraham was a shepherd, and Jesus is the good shepherd. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so we have this kind of dichotomy there. So, um,
Abel was also probably a shepherd.
yeah, Abel was a shepherd, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So, starting verse 29 says, Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage. So in Hebrew, the name for like stew is Edom or Edom, which means red. So it's like that brownish red soup. Um, but this this stew was actually made with lentils as well, and the lentils were red. And the name for red lentils is also Edom or Edom. So Esau actually says, "Give me some of that Edom, Edom, the red lentil stew." So and because he's faint, and Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright." Right?
Hmm.
And Esau says, I am at the point to die. Like he's like, I am really, really hungry, which is kind of a strange detail, right? Because these guys are not poor. They are not destitute, right? Their father is very wealthy. They are wealthy. They're wealthy men, and they've inherited Abraham's kingdom, right?
They're princes
Yeah.
in a community. They are sacral princes, so they shouldn't be lacking anything.
No, right. So it's kind of strange. So we'll finish this, and then I have something like the book of Jasher actually fills in some very interesting details, especially to Latter-day Saints, I think.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so Esau says, I am going to die for starvation. Like I'm so famished. And what is this birthright doing? What profit shall this birthright do to me? Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And then Jacob gave Esau a deal, it says. He gave him bread and the pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink. So he gave him something to drink as well, and rose up and went his way. Thus, it says, Esau despised his birthright.
Or he forsook it.
Yeah, he didn't. And again, this despised here, I think, is we can kind of understand it in this like a similar idiomatic way. Like, I
Right.
don't think it means that he literally hated his birthright.
We know that because later he's devastated, about certain things. And
Right.
so, yeah,
So it
exactly.
doesn't mean he literally hated it, but it does mean that he chose it second.
Hmm.
Right. And
Hmm. He forsook his birthright because he was famished,
right.
you know?
Yeah. So, okay. So why is he so famished? And also, what is this birthright that they're talking about? Now, of course, the birthright is commonly believed to be, and this is correct, commonly believed to be the double portion,
Hmm.
right? If Isaac had,
Okay.
we'll just make the math easy.
Okay.
Isaac had 30 sheep and two sons, then the one that got the birthright would get 20 sheep and the other would get 10 sheep, right?
Right.
You'd, you'd
Yes.
split, you split you split the inheritance into as many children as there are plus one, right? And then usually the oldest, but whoever inherits the birthright, they get like two portions, and everyone else gets a single portion. And a lot of that was to so that the once the father dies, then the eldest son or the birthright son would be the heir and would like take over the management of the family. And so there are expenses that need to be paid. There are probably like younger siblings that still need to be taken care of, unmarried sisters and so on. And so that double portion was to not just for him, but to like manage the family.
Right. The double portion served as a means for the eldest to provide for his unwed sisters, his widowed mother, and
Yeah,
manage the estate.
right. Yeah, all of that. So, okay, now, um, but still, that doesn't answer the question, like why Esau was like faint to the point of death, according to his testimony here. But in the book of Jasher, and I probably won't read this, but maybe I'll read some of it. Um, Jasher, chapter 7, we actually have, and we talked about this a little bit in the previous Torah portion. Yeah, I'm probably not going to read this, but I'll have it here in front of me. But um, remember we talked about the garment that was given to Adam when he was kicked out of the garden. And it was the garment of the holy priesthood,
The coat of skins.
the coat of skins. That's right. And it doesn't say it explicitly in Genesis, but we have these hints here and there throughout about what happened to that coat of skins, and we don't know anything about what happened to Eve's coat, but Adam's coat at least was passed down from father to son, basically, until it comes to Noah. Noah, and when Noah dons it, this is very important because one of the things that the garment does is that it is like imbued with the essence of Eden, and it smells like Eden still. And so when whoever wears it, when they're near animals, then the animals become docile and behave as though they were in Eden still. And this is obviously useful for someone who has a boat full of animals, right? To have them be calm, docile, and so on. Well, what happens to this coat is that it's stolen by Noah's son Ham, right? Noah is has a little too much wine. Ham comes in and takes the garment, and in Jasher says that Ham um, let's see. This is a chapter 7. Um, okay. Verse 24. The garment of skins which God made for Adam and his wife when they went out of the garden were given to Cush. Okay. Let's see. Let me back up. Okay. Were given to Cush. Cush is
Ham's
Ham.
son.
Yeah, Ham's son. For after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments were given to Enoch, the son of Jared, and when Enoch was taken up to God, he gave them to Methuselah his son. At the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark, and they were with him until he went out of the ark. And in their going out, Ham stole the garments from Noah his father, and took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begat his firstborn Cush, he gave him the garments in secret, and they were with Cush many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave him those garments through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And the Genesis says something interesting about Nimrod. It says he was a mighty hunter. So, and we can see probably the connection there, right? If you put on these garments that make even wild animals just become docile or docile. That's going to be an advantage if you're a hunter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nimrod, now Nimrod goes on to become like a tyrant. Okay, and and these garments would have gone to Shem and Shem's family, um, to Eber and Arphaxad and whatever, all the way down till Abraham, and then to Isaac, and then to Esau. Like it would have been, that would have been the birthright, or at least part of the birthright that was handed down. So in Jasher chapter 27, we see the garment um, mentioned again. Okay. Okay. And I won't read all of this, but Nimrod's a hunter, Esau's a hunter, and chapter 27 describes that Nimrod and had like a hunting party, and they were out hunting, and Esau was out hunting as well, and happens to like spy Nimrod and his party out there, and notices that Nimrod gets like separated from the rest of his party, and there had been kind of bad blood between the families, and Jasher mentions like a rivalry, excuse me, between Nimrod and Esau specifically.
Mm.
So Esau sees that Nimrod has become separated, and he like lies in wait. And as Nimrod gets close, he jumps up out of the ambush, draws his sword, and kills Nimrod. And then and also two of Nimrod's companions that are with him. But in the struggle, so and then sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Kills Nimrod, the other two that were with him, and then actually takes the garment off. Actually says that he beheads him
Mm.
and then takes his clothes. It's kind of a Nephi and Laban-ish
Yeah,
almost.
very similar.
Yeah. Takes the garments and then but the struggle was heard by the rest of the hunting party and they come and they see like Esau fleeing and so the rest of the hunting party is chasing Esau and he's been running for days and has not stopped to eat and so he is like literally famished to death and
He's been running for his life in the hot Near Eastern sun for
yeah, right.
days, like
For
you
days.
said.
And so he's like, what good is this birthright to me? And sells it to Jacob right then and there. Um, so now Jacob has the garment and is like back in possession of the descendants of Shem
Mm,
again. Not again, but rightfully the rightful owners, I guess, or would have been rightful owners.
fascinating.
So, okay. Um, I'm going to mention one more little thing that's just a Hebrew thing. Um, and that is the word for hunt, like what Esau would do for hunting animals, is tsud.
Okay.
So it's the beginning is a what's called a tsadi. That's
Hmm.
the letter. It makes like a TS sound, tsud. And then the word for the kind of cooking that Jacob was doing with the red lentils is zud.
Play on
So
words.
it'll play on words, yeah. So Jacob was zud, the the soup, while Esau was tsud, the animals. But really the wordplay is that Jacob was Jacob was hunting and ended up like hunting Esau. Right? He like laid a trap for Esau. He's a trapper and
Hmm.
trapped Esau with this bowl of lentils. Right?
Yeah.
And so okay. So that's it. That's it for 25. So
Okay.
26,
Sweet.
move on. So there was a famine in the land where Isaac was, and God tells him, "Don't." And like um, Isaac was probably like contemplating going to Egypt, I guess, and which happens later on when there's another famine.
Mm.
But but God says, "Don't go to Egypt. Go to the place where I will show you." And He tells him to go to Gerar, which is in a city in the Philistine country. And and the Lord appeared to him and told him that, and says in verse 3, I will be with thee and bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father.
That's amazing.
So Isaac basically gets, the Lord says, don't go, stay here in Canaan. I know it's still not happening yet, but God has it like a very long-term plan. And I think this is actually kind of a theme of this. Like Esau is quite like rash and short-sighted in his actions. Um, and Jacob is much longer-sighted, right? He sees the birthright and realizes its value and um, manages to obtain that. And it's like a longer term goal. Okay, even though there wasn't really deception here, but later on there is, right? Um, but then, but then God in these promises to Isaac has an even longer vision, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. And he says something interesting here. He says, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws.
Well, very cool.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Abraham kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Now, this verse here in Genesis is actually echoed um, in echoed in Deuteronomy chapter 11, which I'm going to 11 verse 1, which I'm just going to read, and you'll hear the obvious similarity. As Moses speaking to the children of Israel, therefore thou shalt love Yahweh thy God and keep his charge, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments always.
Hmm.
So here we have Abraham before the law of Moses was given, uh, keeping, this God actually testifies to Isaac that Abraham kept Deuteronomy chapter 11 verse 1,
I love that.
right? Which is kind of interesting.
They had the same set of laws.
They absolutely did. Yeah. So now just to kind of define some of these things a little bit, when it says that Abraham kept my charge, the word there is
Mm.
mishmeret, which actually has means priestly duties.
Okay. So there's sacred connotations
Yeah,
here.
so it's more than Abraham kept my commandments. It's Abraham kept my commandments as a priest,
Wow.
okay, as a priesthood holder, okay, and then my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Um, commandments is it's the standard Hebrew word for commandment, which is mitzvah,
Hmm.
mitzvot. My statutes are sometimes when you hear the scriptures will like kind of break the commandments into different categories.
Hmm.
Statutes are those, you will get some difference of opinion on this, so, but I'm just going to give you my opinion from my studying. Statutes are those commandments that might not make intuitive sense. Um, whereas judgments, which is used sometimes in Deuteronomy, it says statutes and judgments. Their judgments are those things that kind of do make sense, just like intuitive sense. So, an example of a statute might be to um, bury bury the blood from an animal that you kill.
Fair.
Okay, bury it, cover it with dirt. The animal's dead. You might not think to do that. Why not just put it in the river, or why not just leave it without covering it? Um, maybe you could come up with some like practical reasons for covering it, but it's not something that is like obvious that you should do necessarily. Whereas something that would be very obvious is these things that are like common throughout across cultures, like across cultures. So like do not steal
Mm.
and thou shalt not murder, right? These are things that like all cultures have some form of laws that are these kind of common sense things.
Yeah.
So, okay. Um, it says, so Abraham kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torahs. So it says the laws. Yeah. So, okay. So when Isaac is there, Isaac again, he goes to Gerar, this Philistine city, and he does this same trick, kind of that Abraham did twice before, which is to say, "My wife is my sister," and it might technically not be a lie. Um, in this case, in this case, they are cousins,
Hmm.
right? But she is his sister in an idiomatic sense, right?
She's his kin.
Yeah, a kinswoman, and they're like sister, his sister in the covenant, right? You could say. So it's not a lie, but it is deceptive.
Hmm.
And again, the intention is for the Philistines to believe that they are not married. And again, this is interesting because not until we get to Leviticus is there anything written about incest. But these people, before anything, like centuries before anything supposedly was written, they like understood that this is a no-no.
Hmm.
Okay. So, but it says Abimelech, and I do want to say something interesting about Abimelech. The last the last time that Abraham played this trick, it was on Abimelech as well. And he was a Philistine king. And probably Abimelech, this Abimelech is actually probably a different Abimelech.
Okay.
But Abimelech is the kind of the Philistine equivalent of Pharaoh.
Hmm.
So Abimelech is the name of the Philistine king. And in Hebrew, Abimelech actually is in Hebrew, B and V are interchangeable. So it's Avi Melech,
Right.
which is Avi is my father, and Melech is
King.
king. My father is king. So this is kind of the name that all the kings were
The
given.
title of
The
the
title.
king.
Yeah, right.
Interesting.
Okay. So uh, Abimelech, he he sees Isaac and Rebekah sporting. He sees Isaac sporting with Rebekah, which means flirting, caressing. There was something happening where Abimelech is like, "Oh no, no. This is definitely not true. At least this is, we've been deceived.
She's not his
This
sister.
is not his sister. This is
Yeah.
his wife." And he confronts them, says, "Surely, surely, this is your wife. And why would you do such a thing? Like we uh someone could have like taken your wife and lying with her. Okay. And then that would bring condemnation upon us as well. And what would be the condemnation there? It would be adultery,
Yeah.
which again, there's no written law against adultery.
But these cultures knew that it was
Yeah,
punishable by death.
right. Yes. And that's because the law was given to Adam. And
Hmm.
that was just, and then of course to Noah was the other kind of pinch point, bottleneck, I guess. But yeah, knowledge of those things was disseminated through all the cultures. So Abimelech probably remembers what his the what happened with Abraham, and that God said, if you bless Abraham, then I will bless you. And so Abimelech tells everyone not to touch them and to leave them alone, and to like give them a place in the land. So says Isaac goes, he sows in the land and waxed great and very great and so great that the Philistines begin to become kind of jealous, and they say you have to leave, like you're too amazing for us. So Isaac separates, and he goes elsewhere, and he goes back to where Abraham dwelt kind of previously.
He separates from the Philistines.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And he goes and he finds though that after Abraham died, the Philistines, like basically because of jealousy or something, like filled, like dumped rocks and dirt in all of Abraham's wells that he had dug. And so Isaac goes about like digging them out, and it says something interesting, which is that Isaac like redug these wells and basically and gave them the names that Abraham had given them,
Hmm.
which is just kind of shows Isaac's character, because he is not interested in like making a new name for himself and like saying I dug this well or whatever, and this is like a my accomplishment and my property. He actually is interested in honoring Abraham.
And his legacy.
Yeah, and his legacy. So there's like a series of struggles with Isaac's people and Philistines, complaining about, like, he digs out the well and then the Philistines are like, "Hey, that's our water." And so Isaac says, "Have it, move
With
somewhere
the
else."
same level of hospitality as his father,
Yeah,
he says, okay, I'll move somewhere else.
yeah, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. Like with Lot, it's like, right? There's strife, and he just says, "Lot, what do you want? You choose first. You can have it. I'll go somewhere else." Right?
It also shows faith. Like these men don't have to clamor for what they think is theirs. They know God will bless them no matter where they go.
Yeah, right. Now, right, and I love that. It doesn't mean that Isaac doesn't dig wells,
Right.
but he just knows if that well doesn't work out, like there's other wells, and eventually God is going to give this land to my
Hmm.
descendants anyway.
Right. He's been received into the everlasting covenant, and he has promises from the Lord on his behalf, you know. He's
Yeah,
not worried about a well not working out.
right. So he digs up the next well. There's strife, and he like abandons that one as well.
Second time now, right?
Yep. Goes to the third one, and finally he like has peace.
Nobody gives him any grief.
Right. Okay. And then that night says Yahovah appeared unto him.
Amazing.
Verse 24 appeared unto him and like repeated the promise. I am God. I am the God of Abraham thy father. Fear not, I am with thee, and will bless thee and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there. Okay. And called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. Called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent, and there Isaac's servants digged another well. Okay.
Well, if you haven't seen any other episodes, you should check out our last several. There's a lot to say about pitching tents and calling on the name of the Lord, and there's some heavy temple connections with those. So just go back and watch what we've done so far, particularly within the Abraham narrative.
Yeah. Okay. So then um, Isaac's moving around, finally finds a place, and then Abimelech comes back to him. And and uh and also with like some of his army officers or whatever. And Isaac's like, "What have you done, seeing that you hate me? Like
Hmm.
what are you doing here? You hate me, you sent me away." And now again, hate doesn't mean probably literally despise, but like you have like chosen me, set like you've put me down a notch
Hmm.
in your eyes, right?
Yeah.
So they said, "We saw certainly that Jehovah was with thee." And we said, "Let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee." So, and the covenant is they they can tell that Isaac is blessed
Yeah,
and that
remember.
his kingdom is expanding, and they are fearful that that if they interfere and like try to prevent Isaac, that they're going to be spat upon,
Overshadowed,
cursed.
cursed.
And if they don't do anything, or even if they do something, like either way, Isaac is going to overshadow them.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like the fear that Pharaoh has with the children of Israel when they're in Egypt.
Hmm.
Like nothing bad has happened, but we're worried that they're going to become powerful and then start abusing us.
Hmm.
And so he's like, I want to get into Isaac's good graces, before that
I want to be in covenant
potentially
relationship now.
before that potentially becomes a problem.
Essentially, they're making a treaty between two different kingdoms. You have the kingdom of God headed up by Isaac,
Yeah.
and then the kingdom of the Philistines headed up by Abimelech. I do want to say real quick, we brought this up in a previous episode. All of these ancient Near Eastern cultures believed in a Most High God, a creator God, who presided over a host of lesser gods. So when Abimelech says, "I know Yahovah is with thee," even if they had different names for this Most High God character, what Abimelech is saying is, and even if they believe different things about this Most High God,
Right.
Abimelech is saying, "I know that the Most High God is with you."
Yeah.
So, that just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, I love that. So now let me just clarify here. You're saying even like ancient Israelites or the proto-Israelites here, okay,
Hmm.
believed in multiple gods?
I mean, yes, it's called henotheism, and it is a
Isn't like Jesus says the first commandment is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one,
hmm
and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength," right?
hmm
How does that fit in with,
I think we've talked about it today. It's idiomatic.
okay,
It's symbolic to say he is one, because they did believe in a host of divine beings. It's
okay,
it's not it's not saying there's only one God,
right. Well, I think it's saying um, there is one highest God, and we that's the one we
the
worship.
Most High God.
Yeah.
There's one God who's king.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And we do not worship the other hosts of heaven,
yes,
but they are talked about, right?
yes.
In the scriptures.
This is like well established. Strict monotheism is not biblical. They
Right.
believed in what's called henotheism, which is
So
what
define that.
henotheism.
Yeah.
Again, what we just talked about. There is a Most High God who presides over a host of lesser gods.
Okay. Just
And
like what Paul says, there are gods many and lords many.
yes, yeah,
But to us there is one.
one.
So like the difference between Israel and the pagans is Israel and the pagans, they believe in this pantheon,
Yes,
and a hierarchy, so to speak.
yes.
And there's the Most High God and then lesser gods. But the pagans will just like worship
All of the gods.
everything,
Yes.
everyone, and the Israelites don't.
Yeah,
The
and that
Israelites realize that the other gods are like the most high God's servants.
yes. Yeah, that is a key difference between the early Israelite culture and the other cultures surrounding them is that worship only of the Most High God.
Okay.
Exactly what you just said. Or that's what the Torah was calling them to do. Now, obviously, they often fell into
Right.
idolatry
Yeah, they're surrounded by pagan cultures.
and they have that pagan Egyptian heritage
Yeah.
that. But yeah,
I mean, this is what the Ten Commandments are calling them to fight against and resist.
exactly. In some ways, the
For
Torah,
the first couple of the Ten Commandments, right?
right. In some ways, the Torah is a lot like other ancient Near Eastern codes, but in some ways it like completely departs from the surrounding Near Eastern cultures. So Torah is pretty interesting. It's fascinating for that reason.
Okay. So, I mean, this just goes right along these lines we're talking about here. Abimelech actually, in end of 29, it says, "We know that now you are the blessed of the Lord."
Hmm.
Right? Abraham's gone, and we know that you're the guy now.
You're the heir.
You're the heir.
You
Yeah.
inherited the same blessing.
Yeah. So then it says, and he meaning Isaac, made them a feast, and they did eat and drink. And this is like,
This is literally a covenant treaty.
yeah,
This is again a covenant treaty between two different kingdoms. Like this is so full of ancient Near Eastern culture right here or
yeah.
customs. Two kingdoms making peace with one another. And remember, it's because that fear on the Philistines' part. Like we see that the Most High God is with you, so we want to be in your good
You can see
graces.
the writing on the wall, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
okay, good. So they depart in peace, and everything's good. And then the chapter closes up with um, Esau taking two Hittite wives, which it says were a grief of mind to Isaac and Rebekah. So why would that be a grief of mind? What would you say to his parents?
They're out of the covenant lineage, and they probably have some, you could call it apostate views about God. They have some cultural baggage, is what I
Yeah,
really want to say.
right. Yeah, and like Jasher again sheds some more light on this. Says that these two wives, they just they did not join Esau in the religion of his fathers, but
Hmm.
rather Esau joined them in the religion of their fathers. It was kind of like
Exactly.
like Solomon's problem, right?
Yes, and that's why the Torah actually says uh, kings are not to have multiple wives, and people will use that to delegitimize polygamy or to argue against polygamy, plural marriage, when in reality, the reason for that saying in Torah is to prevent exactly what we're talking about. Uh,
Because kings are eager. This is something that's always happened, right? Kings are eager to form alliances,
yes, diplomacy was it
and that's done through
through
marriage,
marriage.
right?
A,
Nothing.
a huge strategy for diplomacy in the ancient Near East was to have kings taking multiple wives from other surrounding territories. And but the thing about Israel is, that would easily lead to a king's heart being pulled in
Right.
the direction of different gods,
Yeah.
which literally happens to Solomon, like you said, and
Right.
and Esau is a king too. He's a prince
Right.
here,
And
prince
yeah.
of the covenant.
So yeah, some non-canonical sources have say his wives were just worshiping in the Canaanite way, the
Hmm.
Hittite way, and Esau was indulging in that too. And so
There you go.
they're like, so here Esau is again just very like showing his short-sightedness and how he despises the covenant. Okay, not that he hates it necessarily, like but that it's it's lesser to him.
He's forsaken it in lieu of some other
Yeah,
priorities.
right. Yeah. So, and we don't know what the priorities are, but I mean,
Well, we knew what one of them was, to not starve to death.
right. Okay. Good. Okay. So now we're on to do chapter 27. Unless you got anything else
Nope.
you want to say.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. So, um, now here is where we talk about the blessing. So Isaac is getting old. It actually says Isaac was says his eyes were dim. So
Mm,
he was going blind, if not totally blind. I mean, you have to be pretty blind to pull off the deception that's about to occur. But
mm.
Isaac was apparently that level of blindness.
He could make out shapes, maybe,
Yeah, right.
forms.
Light and dark forms, yeah.
Yeah.
But so he tells his son Esau who he loves, right? I don't know if we mentioned, but when the when the two sons were born, it says this is a couple chapters ago. It says as they grow up, Esau becomes a hunter, Jacob is pastoral, as you said, and that Isaac loves Esau and Rebekah loves Jacob. Of course, Rebekah has this revelation that she had about the two peoples in her womb,
Hmm.
and we don't know whether or not she ever told Isaac about that, but
Right.
she didn't forget at least, right? And she in this chapter is about to make sure that that prophecy that God gave her is fulfilled, and so which is a pretty bold thing to do.
It's an amazing thing. I love it. And I don't blame Isaac for loving Esau, because who doesn't love venison, who doesn't love a good deer steak or an elk or whatever that he was hunting.
Yeah,
So,
actually, it's kind of funny. Charlotte was telling me well, she was actually listening to Rabbi Sachs.
hmm
I don't know if you've heard of Rabbi
hmm
Sachs. He actually passed away just a few years ago, but he was Lord Rabbi Sachs. He was like part of the House of Lords.
Yeah, he
He
was
was like,
British royalty.
yeah, he was like the Queen's rabbi.
Hmm.
Even though the Queen's not Jewish, but everyone needs a rabbi.
Yeah, yeah. Gotta have one on your council,
Yeah,
right? In your
right.
entourage.
Anyway, he's a brilliant man, and I love like everything that Rabbi Sachs. He's a um, brilliant commentary on the scriptures. Love him. So anyway, he was talking about this episode here in 27 where Jacob deceives Isaac with Rebekah's help, and and of course they both go. Well, what just to we're probably familiar with the story, but just in case anyone's not, um, Isaac tells Esau, "I'm getting old. I've gone blind. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. I want to give you my blessing to you as my eldest, before I die. So let's make a special occasion out of this. I want you to go and go hunt and go get me some venison that
Hmm.
I love and prepare it for me in the way that I love and bring it to me and I'll eat and then I'll give you my blessing.
This is a conferral of the kingdom. So I'm guessing this is more of a feast.
Yeah.
This is a big deal, what's happening here.
Yeah. And one of the servants like hears this exchange and goes and tells Rebecca. And Rebecca says to Jacob, quick, do what I say. Go get a couple of kids and bring them to me, and we'll make some stew and make it, season it like venison or whatever. And you're going to go in and pretend to be Esau and get the blessing.
Hmm.
And Jacob's response to this is kind of telling, interesting. I don't know. He doesn't say, that's like so, that's dishonest.
Hmm.
Why would we deceive dad like that? What he says is, uh, it's not going to work because Esau is hairy and I'm smooth. So
Yeah.
like that's his objection
Yeah.
is there's like a logistical problem.
Hmm.
We need to solve it. Let's do this, but we need to solve this problem.
There's a hole in this plan we gotta fix.
Right. So anyway, Rabbi Sachs, when he was talking about this, like it's like venison versus kids, like goat, right?
Hmm.
Okay. And so he says like the blessing was what was at says the blessing was at stake. Can't
Uh,
see. That's a funny
the blessing.
thing.
Nice.
So anyway,
Does he have like a dad joke, Torah?
yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he intended it to be a joke, but anyway, Charlotte thought it was so funny that he
Bara.
said that. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And now the like the extent of like Jacob says, like I am going to be found out and I'm going to bring a curse instead of a blessing upon myself for doing this. And Rebecca is so sure that she says, if that happens, then your curse be upon me, my son.
It
But
seems
go and
like
do what I say.
she's either frantic right now or like full of the knowledge of God right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or both.
All stakes are kind of hinging on this
It's
what's
like
happening right
it's a
now.
bold plan.
But I can imagine her. She received this prophecy long ago. This is it right here. If she's not successful in this plot, it's all, you know, basically for naught. And
Right.
so I'm wondering if she wouldn't be just full of the Spirit of God right now. I know there's deception here. There's mixed feelings about this whole scenario. Maybe Protestants will say that this is definitely morally questionable, or at best.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if she is just full of the Spirit to fulfill God's will.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with the idea that this is morally questionable.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, but yeah, you bring up a good point.
And yet, clearly, like God honors this.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
Isaac
right.
honors it too. Isaac is like, oh, well, we'll get there. But he's like, oh, this I was just deceived, but
He
it's
can't take it
done.
back.
It's done.
It's been sealed upon him. There's been
Yeah.
priesthood. This is a priesthood blessing. It's a conferral of the keys
Which
of the
is
kingdom.
like a pretty wild thing to contemplate, right?
Yeah, I mean, imagine participating in an ordinance. If it's been done, it's been done, even if it was through deceit. And so I don't know.
It is a conundrum.
Yeah.
So I have some things to say about it. Well, I think I'll save it though.
Okay.
But so he says, go and fetch a couple of kids, okay, so goats, and we'll make it into savory meat, such as your father loved. I said stew earlier, but just says savory meat, I guess. So and then Rebecca took some goodly raiment, okay, so some clothing that belonged to Esau, which she had, and put it on Jacob. Says, okay, you're gonna wear his clothes. And then she put the skins of the kids of the goats, like that they had just like the very fresh, so they're soft. It's not
Hmm.
like tough leather, right?
Yeah.
This is untanned, so this is like they'll have the same suppleness as like actual skin, right?
Yeah.
And they fasten it on his arms and his neck somehow so that he's feels hairy.
Wow.
Okay, so and then go in. So you got the savory meat and the bread, and there's wine also, I think later on, and goes in to his father, and his father is surprised, right? Because it was very quick.
Wow. That was a quick hunting trip. You didn't
Yeah,
expect
because
that.
like yeah, Esau has to go out into the wilderness
Hmm.
to find prey, right? And Jacob like goes in the backyard, right?
Hmm.
So he's quicker, okay? And let's see. And so Isaac is a little bit suspicious, and so but Jacob comes and says, "Here am I." And he says, "Who art thou, my son?" Jacob says, "I'm Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee. Sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me." And he says, "How have you found it so quickly?" And Jacob says, "The Lord thy God brought it to me." He says, God did this.
You know what? He's not lying.
And yeah, there's a bit of there's kind of some irony in his words right there. Right.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, there's the deception. I am Esau. I mean, if he had just said, "I am thy firstborn," you could,
Mm.
you could say, well, maybe he wasn't li he was deceiving but not lying or something. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, this is deception. So, okay. So Isaac is still suspicious. So he says, "Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, whether thou be my very son Esau or not." Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." Um, so so that was good enough. And so it says he blessed him. But he did ask him one more thing. He said, "Art thou my very son Esau?" And he said, "I am." He said, "Bring near to me, and I will eat my son's venison." So he did. He brought him wine. He drank. And his father Isaac was still not quite convinced, I guess. Said, "Come near, and uh, and kiss me, my son." He came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his clothing and blessed him. Said, "The smell of my son is the smell of a field which the Lord hath blessed." Like, because Esau's always out in the field or whatever.
Hmm.
Now, some of the some of the like Jewish commentators said that said something very interesting. Said that when Isaac smelled the smell of his clothes, that he smelled like the smell of Eden.
Because the garment.
And yeah, no, I don't think that the garment that Esau's garment that Rebecca put on him was just like his outer clothes,
Hmm.
but I wonder if Jacob was wearing the Adam's garment
Mm.
underneath, and Isaac sensed that and and mistook it maybe for just like the smell of the outdoors or something.
That's funny.
But okay, and then so he blesses him there. He says, and the blessing is short but interesting. Therefore, God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of corn and wine, and let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee.
The distilled Abrahamic promises.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
right there.
Yeah. Now, um, I find there's a couple of interesting, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things here. Okay. But one of the things that will be probably of special interest to Latter-day Saint readers here is this part where he says, "Be Lord over thy brethren." So be Lord over your brothers,
Hmm.
and let your mother's sons, plural, right, bow down to thee.
Mm.
Now, how many brothers does he have?
Well, in the according to the text,
And how many sons does his mother have?
yeah, I mean, the text would indicate only one other, but there's probably a lot more going on here than the text indicates.
Right. Now there are possible there are a number of ways to read this, I guess.
Hmm.
One could be that when he says be Lord over your brothers and your mother's sons, that he just is speaking idiomatically of like your male relatives. And that's certainly a possibility. Okay. Another possibility um is that he's just covering all his bases, in case Rebecca has any more sons in the future. They are going to be, you know, you were going to be a leader or ruler over them
Hmm.
as well, like in the future, speaking in the future. That's a possibility. Um, another possibility is another possibility is that section 132, which says that Isaac was a plural husband, is actually there's a hint here at that.
Oh yeah.
Now, sometimes people will say, well, there's a problem in section 132 because it says that Isaac was a plural husband,
Hmm.
but the the text in Genesis does not explicitly support that. Therefore, it's a contradiction, a logical contradiction. Would you agree with that?
Not at all.
And why not?
Because an omission of data does not equal a logical contradiction.
Right.
The fact that Genesis doesn't say anything specific about any other wives doesn't mean he didn't have other wives. You know what I mean? And another thing, we've brought this up so many times, but Abraham was literally a king and tribal chieftain, and so is Isaac. Isaac's going to have m multiple wives. That's what happened back in the ancient
Yeah.
Near East, you know?
It'd actually be surprising if he didn't.
Yes,
Right.
as a tribal chieftain, he will be married to multiple women,
Yeah.
and Abraham was at least married to three that we know of, but it's possible there were more, you know.
Well,
So
there were more. It was, oh,
it actually says that
it says,
in
yeah.
the text. There were more. There wasn't Abraham did not just have three wives; he had more. So to say that Isaac didn't is it's not in line with the culture, and with
Yeah. So it's definitely not a contradiction. So let me just
yeah.
like give an example, another example of why this is not a contradiction. Okay. And it's, you could, we could come up with silly examples like um, the Book of Mormon never says that Nephi had shoes, like sandals.
Therefore,
And since the text never mentions Nephi's shoes, then then we know that Nephi never had shoes, right?
mhm.
One does not actually logically follow the other,
It's a non sequitur. The conclusion does not follow from the premise.
right? And so you could do a similar thing with family things, like so Adam's son Seth, the Genesis never mentions any wife at all.
Hmm.
So now it does say that Seth had a son, right?
Hmm.
Enos, but there's no mother mentioned, so maybe it was just like it could be just like a miraculous birth, like Enos is taken from Seth's side or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, that's ridiculous maybe, but that's not unprecedented, right?
Hmm.
It says Eve was taken from Adam's
Mm.
side, so what's wrong with that? Well, it it's just because the text doesn't mention it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Like the scriptural accounts are very sparse, right? They say only they they have only details and only mention people that are kind of like necessary to push the storyline along.
Mm.
And there's so many people that we can like logically conclude existed, wives and sons and daughters that are never mentioned because they're just not a critical part of the story necessarily, right?
Yeah, Abraham and Isaac likely had many princes for sons, but only those that were directly involved in the story of the covenant lineage are
Yeah,
mentioned. That's
yeah,
what you're saying, right?
right. Yeah,
And like Ishmael and Esau are mentioned because they're directly involved in the lives of Isaac and Jacob, and they're important to the story. But
right.
there were probably other princes in this tribe, in the
Yeah,
kingdom.
right. Yeah. Okay. And so yeah, so this is not actually it's not actually a contradiction.
Hmm.
It's actually more information. Section 132 is
Exactly.
like clear, and there are um, indicators here that maybe we'll get into more later. Maybe it'll will. But okay, I just wanted to mention that. Okay, now it says verse 30 is as soon as Isaac had made an end blessing Jacob, um, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting.
Nice.
Okay, so not that Esau like came in to Isaac, but Esau came back to his house and started like preparing the venison,
Yeah.
and Isaac was already gone. Okay. So he also made savory meat, brought it to his father, and said, let my father arise and eat his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten it all before you came. Like I'm not even hungry anymore. Like
Poor
so,
Isaac. He thinks he's like losing his mind, you know?
yeah. and Esau is distraught.
Hmm.
Like Isaac trembles. Like Isaac is confused and um like just totally bewildered. And Esau is vexed, right? Says he cried with a great and exceedingly bitter cry.
Imagine thinking you're about to have the keys of the kingdom conferred upon you, the authority of kingship in your community, and you come back to find out like that is your entire like that was on Esau's mind his whole life. I'm going to be king of this entire community someday. I'm going to be their king and their high priest. That is gone in an instant. Can you even imagine how horrible that would be?
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and he says, "Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Isaac said, "Your brother came with subtlety and has taken away thy blessing." And Esau said, "Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these two times." So I think Esau finally gets the joke, like the wordplay, right? The pun,
The prophetic
the
naming of his
prophetic
brother.
naming. Yeah. All his life, maybe up until then, he thought, oh, they named him Jacob because, which is the heel, because he came second. He came last. So that's why he was named that. But there's an idiomatic meaning, which means to like butt in line, right? And
Hmm.
replace someone, like trip them by the heel or whatever, and plant your own heel in its place.
So, and I do want to clarify, he's been supplanted twice because he lost the birthright and his kingship now. I mean, the two different things.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. He actually says, he has supplanted me these two times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he taken away my blessing.
Hmm.
And so these are in the text here, these are two different things.
And this blessing is quite literally the kingly ordination and the blessings of being the inheritor of the everlasting covenant.
Yeah. And and probably the like the property as well.
Yeah, everything.
But the birthright was
Just
uh
a double portion.
well, in this case, I believe the birthright was yes, it is the double portion, but I believe it was the coat
The
also.
birthright was the coat, then
Yeah. And all the other things that go along with it. Actually, uh yeah, there's other Jewish traditions that say that in addition to the coat that Jacob like they bargained a price over the rest of the birthright, including the cave
mm,
that Abraham had purchased.
yes, for burial,
Yeah,
for their
right.
family plot.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting. But this has got to be agonizing for Esau.
yeah, totally agonizing. So he asked him again, "Do you not have you not reserved a blessing for me?" And Isaac said, "I have made him thy Lord, and all his brothers have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. What else? What do you want me to do for you?" And Esau said, "Hast thou but one blessing? My father blessed me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. I mean, uh, this is kind of a heart-wrenching scene here.
Yeah.
So Isaac actually relents and does give him a blessing, and like the first part of the blessing is actually like identical to Jacob's. He blesses him uh, with the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven.
Yeah, so it's blessings that don't involve the leadership, but they are still Abrahamic blessings of prosperity, right?
Yeah, right. And then he basically says, um, "You won't serve your brother forever."
Yeah, and I want to, were you going to say anything
No,
about
go for it.
this? Says he'll, it's Jacob, or excuse me, Isaac blesses Esau that he will break Jacob's yoke from off his neck. And so in this scenario, Jacob has been anointed king over this community. He's been blessed with to succeed Isaac, and therefore he is king over his blood brothers. They are princes in this tribe, and he is king.
Yeah,
What what Isaac is promising Esau here is that Jacob will not be king over him forever.
yeah,
And this would imply that Esau is going to leave the kingdom of God, the kingdom set up through Abraham,
right.
that he's going to move and set up his own kingdom somewhere else.
Yeah, interesting. Now, later on, actually, the rest of the Old Testament has, and the New Testament too,
Mhm.
has a pretty good amount of things to say about Esau, or and about the people that came from Esau, which is Edom or the Edomites.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and and a lot of it is not good. Like Edom, like there was like rivalry between the brothers,
Hmm.
but that that verse that Paul quotes in Malachi that says, "Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated,"
Hmm.
is actually like in context probably is not talking about the individuals, but talking about the nations.
Right.
And it's because of like the evils that Edom has committed against Israel.
Most especially when Israel had finally broken the yoke of Egypt off its neck and
Yeah.
they were traveling the wilderness, Edom did not treat them with hospitality.
No, right.
Even though they were distant cousins, the Edomites and the Israelites, they were their
Right.
kin,
Yeah.
and yet the Edomites are not being hospitable.
Right. So I will say, like God is not a hypocrite.
Okay.
So uh, when it says Jacob I've loved and Esau I've hated, like God doesn't hate Esau in the way that we normally think of the word hate, and He doesn't command His people to do that either. Actually, in Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 7. I wrote it down. Deuteronomy 23, verse 7. God actually says, "Do not despise Edom, for he is your brother."
Yeah.
So, like, and yeah, so hate, yes, but in an idiomatic way, as in not chosen or chosen second or something.
Hmm.
But actual, like, despise,
Don't do
no,
it.
no.
It's interesting. Edom is literally Israel or Jacob's brother. The Ishmaelites are like the uncles to the Israelites.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But Edom is literally Israel's brother. So
right.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I will say something else that this is also interesting is, and there's scriptural precedent for this too,
Hmm.
but um, the Ishmael and his descendants basically become Arabs,
Yes.
which is kind of represented as far as the Abrahamic traditions as Islam.
Yeah.
And scripturally, there's clues about this too that Edom actually becomes Rome.
Oh, I thought the Edomites all were sort of observed into the Arab world and they
There was
absorbed
some of
it.
that as well.
Okay, because it seems like a lot of a lot of the descendants of Abraham,
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of them have become Arabs, but there's evidence that Edomites helped found Rome.
Yes, that's right.
Amazing.
Eventually,
Okay.
and so Edom becomes again in the like Abrahamic tradition Christians.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
so anyway, that is interesting. And
So Jacob becomes the Jews,
yeah,
and
right.
Esau becomes the Christians.
Yeah,
If it is true that
right,
Idumeans sailed across the Mediterranean to modern day Italy and
right,
or to what is known as Italy
right.
today, and you
Yeah,
know what I'm trying to
yeah.
say.
Anything else you want to say?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay, so the last, let's see. Okay, so like Rebecca continues uh, her machinations, her plans to um, exalt Jacob over Esau and to get away with it. Because, I mean, Esau is furious and, understandably so.
I think had we been groomed to become the king and that had that been taken from us, I don't know. I'd be in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, Esau has it within his power to gather up a posse of
Hmm.
men and ensure that Jacob is killed.
Exactly.
And he actually makes this known that his plan is to pay back Jacob by killing him.
And let's real quick. I've said it a million times in previous episodes. This isn't like Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebecca out alone in the wilderness. You've said it too. They're like snowbirds alone. They are king and queen over a kingdom. They are tribal chieftains, which means as princes, Esau and Jacob would, like you said, each have their own posse or their own the what's the word I've been using?
They have their own households,
Their own, yeah.
entourage. Yeah, yeah.
They have an entourage. They have their own servants. They have their own tribe, which
Officers. Yeah.
yes. So when Esau is plotting to kill Jacob here, it's like this is a
Intrigue,
yeah,
political
this
intrigue.
is political intrigue. This is like a television drama, like grab your popcorn because this is a little bit more interesting and complex than we give it credit for.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's big moving pieces, right?
Hmm.
So, um, so, uh, and Rebecca has spies. Like there's spies.
I know. She has
Rebecca,
her own servants who are on it. There's political intrigue in this tribe
yeah,
going down everywhere.
yeah. Rebecca doesn't hear Esau do this, but like one of the servants hears it and comes and tells
Yeah.
Rebecca because she has her ears out in the community, right?
Can you imagine being like living in Abraham or in Isaac's community at this point and just like hearing all the rumors about all of this, you know?
You're right.
I recommend a book called Nomads of the Nomads, and it details the life of a group of Arabs essentially, whose ways had been unchanged for thousands of years, at least or at least up to the 1970s.
Hmm.
But it details how Lehi and Abraham would have lived. I highly recommend it. I mentioned it before, but it really sort of colors in this picture we're building about what this might have looked like. And
Okay.
it's really fun to consider. So
Yeah. All right. Okay. A little bit of speculation here. Like it doesn't say literally that Rebecca had spies, but it says
yeah.
that like one of her servants. It says, well, let's see. I'll read it. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand." Like because Isaac is getting old. He's gonna die any day soon. And Esau, for the things that might be said against him, at least he doesn't want to like he respects his father. Okay.
He doesn't want to be the cause of his father's death
Right.
by killing his brother.
Right. So, but he says, then I will slay my brother Jacob, right?
Mm.
After my father dies and everyone's mourned, then, then it's time to, then it's time for the real heir to stand up, right?
Hmm.
And
To take back the throne.
he says, then I'm going to kill. Yeah, right. Then I'm going to take back the throne. That's
Hmm.
basically what he's saying, right? And then it says, these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. So, and then she calls Jacob and tells what Esau is planning. And he says, she says, now therefore, my son, obey my voice, arise, flee thou to Laban, my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days. How long were those few days?
I mean, it was more than 14 years. Wasn't it like 21 years
A
or 20
long
years?
time. Yeah.
A huge chunk of his life.
Yeah, right. And
Uh,
so, okay. A few days, until your brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day?
mm,
That was interesting. She says, why should I be deprived of you both in one day? Would she be deprived of them both? Like, because like Jacob was the one that was going to be killed.
I, in a way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's saying like, even if Esau were to, if Esau went through with his plan and actually like killed you, like Jacob would die, but like this act would like destroy Esau as well,
Hmm.
right?
And maybe their relationship is already strained, because she favors
Right,
Jacob in some ways.
right. So yeah, interesting. She says it's just going to be a few days, and I will send for you. Like I will come tell you when it's safe. And imagine Jacob just like waiting when like days turn into weeks, months, and then year after year after year, and apparently no cooling off
Well,
of Esau's plan.
he I think it's Laban's fault, actually.
That is true, but there's no there is some of that too. But still,
Didn't
he
hear from his mom
didn't hear from his mom.
in the scripture, at least, like in the text that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually do we do hear from his mom later. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Not in this portion, but
Hmm.
later on. Okay.
Spoiler.
Yeah. So, okay. So she tells Jacob, she gives Jacob instructions. It says, you need to go to Laban's house for safety. And then this is just political intrigue again. And then she goes to her husband Isaac and says, I'm weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth,
The
that
Hittite.
the Hittites that Esau has married. So if Jacob take a wife of the daughters of the Hittites, such as these that are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? So she like it's like it's very Fiddler on the Roof
Yeah.
esque. Um, because she doesn't want Isaac to find out that mom like sent him away. Like what? Like that's not her job, right?
To send the prince,
Away.
well, the king.
The king, yeah.
Well, the man who will become king,
The king elect or
king
whatever.
elect. Yeah.
So so uh so she goes to Isaac and is like, "Oh my goodness, we can't allow Isaac to marry a Hittite like his brother did."
Mhm.
And Isaac's like, "Yeah, that was a bad operation." So then it says Isaac called Jacob on to chapter 28 and blessed him and charged him, saying, "Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. But arise and go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother." So like Rebecca like basically like made Isaac think that it was his idea to send
Mm,
Jacob away.
she's crafty.
I know. Amazing.
Hey, she is a sacral queen. Why wouldn't she be engaged in politics, in politicking and whatnot?
Yeah. So, okay, let's see. So, uh, now here's an interesting. Well, I think we kind of talked about this already, so I won't go into that. But it is interesting that they're concerned about they're concerned about their children marrying Canaanite women.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, Canaanite does not mean descendants of Cain
A
or descendants of
culture.
Canaan. Canaan is actually a land, is the land of Canaan. Um,
This seems to be a cultural matter,
yeah,
meaning we do not like the culture and religion of these geographical Canaanites, right?
right. Because it's Hittites and Philistines and
Amorite
Hivites and Amorites and yeah, Jebusites and whatever. So,
and giants of various kinds.
yeah, well, yeah, and the Giants they show up a little bit later, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I do believe that the Giants have a foothold.
Mhm.
Um, and when Jacob goes into Egypt for a couple of centuries, then the Giants' foothold basically, which are the children of the fallen angels, right? The
Mhm.
Nephilim. Then they kind of the infection expands, so to speak. But the interesting thing here, I just wanted to again point out um, that Isaac and Rebecca, they're concerned about this, but we don't have anything written. There's no like written scripture that we can see until Deuteronomy. It says, don't intermarry with the Canaanites. And yet these people living centuries before are like telling their sons not to do that.
Mm.
So again, how are they? Well, it's because they have the same set of commandments, basically, right? Not that
Yeah.
they not that Isaac has the book of Exodus and Numbers and Leviticus, but he has like but that information is available to him, was given to him, right?
And why is there a bar on marrying Canaanites? Because it compromises the kingdom. The kingdom is rooted in the gospel of Yeshua and the religion of God.
Yeah.
And to be, especially for princes to be marrying Canaanites is like a huge risk to the whole thing.
Is a risk, right? Risk is a good way to put it. So, okay. So, um, we're almost to the end here. So, so Isaac goes away. Okay. Um, and in verse 6 here, when Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to take a wife from thence, and that he blessed him and gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan, and that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Padan Aram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, um, then then went Esau to Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had already, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife. Nebaioth is Ishmael's oldest son.
Hmm.
So, so this woman, Mahalot, is a daughter of Ishmael, but it mentions Nebaioth. So Nebaioth is just another one of Ishmael's children, but his oldest son. So
So Esau goes to his cousins,
yeah,
the daughters of his uncle Ishmael.
right. Yeah. So, and in an effort to, like, he realizes that Jacob is favored, and and maybe this is like the first kind of glimmer, maybe, in Esau's mind that um, the way to the way to be favored by your parents is to do things that please them rather than do things that please yourself,
To honor them.
to honor them. Yeah, and he realizes, oh, Jacob is actually doing things that honor our parents instead of just demanding um, blessings because of his birthright or whatever,
Hmm.
um, which Esau has been concerned with, but not necessarily concerned with, yeah, with honoring them. So,
He's like, oh, maybe I should be walking after the God of my father,
yeah,
like Jacob, you know?
right. Yeah, he can see that. So that's the end of this portion.
Hmm.
Okay. So anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. And till next time, like and subscribe. And shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom to all those who like and subscribe.
Yes, and to those who don't, we're grateful you were here anyway.
Okay. All right.